It happened in seconds. The shriek of metal, the surge of seawater, and a sickening crunch as one Chinese ship smashed into another. On August 31st, in the contested waters near Scarborough Shoal, a Chinese Coast Guard cutter and a PLA Navy vessel collided in the middle of a high-stakes pursuit. What was meant to be a show of force turned into chaos on the open sea, a clash that exposed fault lines not just between nations, but inside China's own operations. Before we dive in, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive from Naval Brief. Scarborough Shoal, a tiny reef claimed by both China and the Philippines, has long been a pressure point in the South China Sea. It is a spot where fishing boats, Coast Guard patrols, and warships often converge, circling and shadowing one another like predators testing the water. But rarely has the tension spilled over in such a dramatic and public way. The incident unfolded as Philippine resupply boats attempted to approach the shoal. Reports suggest Chinese ships surged forward to intercept them, boxing in the Philippine convoy. In a scramble, a large PLA Navy vessel and a smaller Coast Guard cutter both maneuvered too aggressively. Eyewitnesses say the cutter swerved to cut across the path of the Philippine vessels, only to clip the Navy ship that had just shifted position. The result was catastrophic. The two Chinese vessels scraped broadside, grinding steel on steel, their wakes churning whitewater. Videos captured from nearby boats show sparks, smoke, and sailors running to stations as alarms blared. For a moment, it looked like the cutter might be crushed under the weight of its larger counterpart. The collision didn't sink either ship, but damage was visible. The Coast Guard cutter's hull was badly dented, railing twisted and blackened. The Navy vessel showed scoring down its port side, with panels peeled back like torn sheet metal. Both ships stayed afloat, but both were wounded, visibly embarrassed symbols of Beijing's claim to total control of the shoal. Passengers aboard Philippine boats described the moment as chaos. One fisherman said they were so busy blocking us, they hit each other. We thought for a second it was going to explode. Another reported hearing shouted commands in Mandarin over loudspeakers just before the crash. What was supposed to intimidate Manila turned into a spectacle of confusion. For the Philippines, the collision was a reminder of the danger its sailors face daily at sea. These resupply runs are hazardous even without weapons drawn. Water cannons, shadowing maneuvers, and dangerous swerves have become routine. Now, it seems even Chinese ships aren't safe from the reckless brinkmanship. But to understand why Scarborough matters so much, we need to rewind to 2012. That year, a tense standoff between Philippine and Chinese ships ended when Beijing effectively seized control of the shoal. Ever since, Manila has fought to reassert its presence while Beijing has tightened its grip, building artificial islands nearby and expanding patrols. Each encounter today is layered with that history. Every move is a test of sovereignty, every collision a reminder that control here is contested, not settled. Internationally, the footage of Chinese vessels colliding was a propaganda nightmare for Beijing. The image caught on camera of two of its own ships crashing into each other while trying to push out the Philippines turned into a spectacle of chaos, shattering the illusion of total control. Beijing's Ministry of Defense downplayed the incident, calling it a minor accident during standard operations. But analysts were quick to point out that accidents rarely happen when every move is calculated in disputed waters. Manila, on the other hand, seized the moment. Officials highlighted the recklessness of China's maneuvers, insisting the collision only proved how unsafe Chinese operations have become around Scarborough Shoal. The Philippine Coast Guard released statements pointing out that their convoy never made contact. Only Chinese ships collided. This is what happens, one spokesman said, when intimidation takes priority over seamanship. For Manila, the footage was political gold and carried more weight than a dozen speeches. It proved that size alone doesn't guarantee control. The United States weighed in as well. While careful not to escalate further, the Pentagon noted that incidents like these underscore the need for freedom of navigation and safe conduct at sea. Behind closed doors, U.S. officials likely saw the event as an opening, proof that China's pressure tactics are not just aggressive but sloppy. It gave Washington a talking point to rally support among allies and to stress that Chinese dominance in the South China Sea is far from flawless. For regional allies like Japan and Australia, the collision reinforced their own concerns. If Chinese ships can't coordinate safely in their own backyard, what risks might they pose to international shipping lanes? Naval officers quietly noted that the collision, while an embarrassment, was also a warning. Reckless maneuvers near crowded straits and reefs could just as easily spiral into a multi-nation disaster. Even within China, the incident raised eyebrows. The Coast Guard is supposed to serve as a flexible, assertive arm of Beijing's maritime claims, while the PLA Navy provides the muscle. But this crash suggested a lack of coordination, a dangerous overlap between agencies that are supposed to complement, not collide. Some analysts suggested it reflected internal rivalry, each ship pushing too hard to prove its role in front of the other. Strategically, the collision matters because it shatters the illusion of calm control. For years, China has built its South China Sea narrative around inevitability, the idea that its dominance is unquestioned and unshakable. But when two of its own ships slam into each other on camera, that image cracks. The Philippines, meanwhile, walked away with a propaganda win. Though its boats were overpowered and its sailors often outgunned, they could point to this incident and say, "Look, China's heavy-handed tactics are not invincible. They can backfire, literally." Filipino leaders wasted no time pushing the footage to international outlets, framing it as proof that Chinese aggression breeds instability, not order, in the South China Sea. But make no mistake, the danger hasn't passed. If anything, the collision makes future encounters more unpredictable. Chinese captains, stung by embarrassment, may push even harder to avoid another public blunder. That could mean riskier maneuvers, harsher confrontations, and more flashpoints where an accident could escalate into armed conflict. The South China Sea is a place where seconds matter, where the turn of a rudder or the push of a throttle can spark an international incident. On August 31st, that danger was on full display. Two ships, one flag, one mission, and yet they crashed, a warning of the reckless path of confrontation. For Beijing, this was supposed to be another show of strength at Scarborough Shoal. Instead, it turned into a collision that showed weakness, miscalculation, and poor coordination. For Manila, it was both a scare and an opportunity, a chance to rally international attention and remind the world just how volatile this flashpoint remains. And for the rest of us, it was a reminder of how fragile the balance truly is. A single wrong move, a misjudged angle, or an overeager helmsman can turn a contested reef into the stage for the next crisis. This is Naval Brief, your briefing room for sea power and defense analysis. If you're all hands on deck for real naval operations, maritime conflict, and global defense, subscribe and stay mission ready for the next briefing.